everyone, and welcome to the Honor the Feminine podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Ledford, and today we're stepping into episode 3 of our Shame Game series. So, in the past, we've had really standalone episodes with interviews. This Shame Game series actually builds on itself. So if you haven't listened to the first 2 episodes, so it starts actually at episode 100, I invite you to go back and start at episode 100. This will be episode 102. And to start at the beginning of the series, there will be some beautiful learnings and medicine today, but you'll have a deeper context by starting at episode 100 with I'm a No to Shame. So we're going to begin with a Mother Mary Oracle card. Today what came forth was number 40, Our Lady of the Rose Crown. And her face is very shadowed. It's a bit of a darker card, which feels very appropriate for what's been coming up for me. And this card is really around protecting your spiritual deepening, and that you're entering into another level of spiritual experience to heal, for that deeper healing. And that's also been very up in the last couple of weeks for me. It also speaks to this card. It also speaks to keeping you grounded and authentic in the world, even as you're guided to deeper communion with your divine self. And I will take all of the Mother Mary energy and holding that can help me stay grounded and authentic as I deepen into myself. It feels, again, really important right now. So over the past couple of weeks, I actually haven't done these Shame Game episodes because they're actually feeling harder to do. And so when things feel harder, I feel into, is it because this is not the direction in which I'm supposed to move? Or is this some fear and resistance coming up to being on my edge? And as I sat with it, it was really that fear and resistance coming up. It's been quite a journey over the last couple of weeks. There's this feeling that as I've stepped into the intention this year around surrender and really surrendering, and really opening up in this series to I'm a no to shame. And that even as I could feel and know in my mind that I'm a no to shame, it became very clear a number of weeks ago that there were areas in which I was holding a lot of shame. And so that was part of what initiated all of this sharing, was the shame around my New York law license, and the shame around holding some secrets that I'm going to speak into today. But as surrender and I'm a no to shame came together, it did a bit of a tsunami on me. I mean, it's really been no joke, the darkness the last few weeks. And what it brought forth is really my biggest shame. And my biggest shame is I'm broken. I knew I was broken. And now everyone's going to know I'm broken and not going to love me. That's been the story. And that story came in about 20 years ago, really in a bit of a tidal wave. And I would have told you that I had healed that was no longer a story that holds me. And that's not true. And the last few weeks have been humbling in this way. And they've been this really beautiful unfolding and remembering around how our journey, our healing, it isn't linear. It's really a spiral. And we do spiral around to the same things, medicine, lessons, healings. But we come to them as who we are today versus who I was 20 years ago. And again, I would have said this one was healed. This, I don't feel broken. I know I'm not broken. But that's what came up, this deep tidal wave of shame around I'm broken. I knew I was broken. And now nobody's going to love me because they're going to see how broken I am. And the interesting thing is that as I've opened up around this, what seems to be universal in the human experience is that we all have parts of ourselves that we believe are broken. But that we hide because we think we're the only ones. And that there's some really beautiful communion with each other around our broken piece, our, quote unquote, broken pieces. Yeah, it's amazing what has come up, how humbling it's been, how much deep darkness I fell into, and how much support I have as I unpack it, unfold it, and process it. And I'm going to be talking more and more about that in the coming episodes, because I still am really in that process of what this unfolding is all about. And I'll be sharing that along the way, even though it feels hard. Even though it feels hard. So one of the things that prompted this Shame Game series is that I have not used my New York law license in 15 years, and yet I was still holding on to it. And we've talked about, the stories around that. So my dad was the proudest of me, and can I really step into what is this new economy around not having this professional license to fall back on, and all of these things. And what does that mean? And how does that play for me? And so a couple of weeks ago, I'd made the call to find out what steps I needed to take to release my New York law license. And that paperwork came, and I filled it out earlier this week. And it only took a couple of hours to fill out the paperwork, to take it and get it notarized, to copy it, to fill out the envelopes, stamp them, and get them all ready to go. And I thought to myself, why have I waited? Why did I wait? Why did I torture myself with the hemming and the hawing and the worrying about how much time and energy and money this was all going to take? And I just, why? And, there's medicine and lessons that have unfolded in all of that, right? And there is this, walking of the path. But I will tell you that as all of that came together, I could feel a weight lifted from my body, right? Because what has gone on with this is that there's been this energy leak. And so the worrying and the stories around, I'm not a good businesswoman because I haven't taken care of this, or people are going to know that I don't have everything together because I haven't taken care of this. And it was a bit of a mess. And I hadn't paid my legal dues up there, or done the continuing legal education for that. and I hadn't handled it, and what does that say about me, and what are people going to think about me, right? And so all of that came in, the shame, the worrying, and all of that was just a continual energy leak. And it's not that it was top of mind every moment. It's actually that it was back on a back burner, and, you know, but it was still leaking energy from me. And so I could feel as those envelopes got addressed and the documents got into them and they got stamped, I took a moment to really set my intention again around sending these off, and with a lot of ease and grace to release the law license. And then I set them on my altar for half a day, really so that intention could be set and infused into them. Because right now I'm in a position where this is all that I needed to do to continue the process. And I don't know exactly what's going to come back, but I did want to really, again, I set the intention when I made the phone call to the grievance committee and talked to Joanne a few weeks ago around really infusing ease and grace into this process as I release my New York law license. And so I reset that intention as I was sending the paperwork off. And so that night, I took them out to the mailbox. I put the flag up, and, the next day they were on their way. And again, huge release for me of like stuck energy is what it felt like. And I actually had, I had lunch with Ava the next day, and we were talking, and one of the visuals that came to her was that there were gears energetically that were now turning that hadn't been turning. And that felt very true to me, that there'd been this stuck energy, right? That's stuck in, I don't take care of stuff. I'm not a good person. I'm not a good business person. I've let this get messy. What are people going to think because this is messy, right? And a lot of that got released as I stepped forward into action around putting this right, putting it in alignment with who I am today, energetically. And so that felt amazing. Like the gears were turning. So it's like this other part of me that had been stuck, that was now in a place to participate in my unfolding, in that communion with my divine self that the Mother Mary card talked about, right? Keeping me grounded and authentic as I come more in alignment with my divine self. And this was a part of that. And those gears turning and that energy moving, that's a part of that. And it's important. Like it's felt really, really, really important. And it's been amazing, the support that I've had around this, the celebration of those in my life who have really walked this with me and heard me talking about this. I mean, I said, I've been talking about releasing this law license for like 18 months, knowing that it's an energy leak and still not stepping in because there was more medicine for me. And so I now have an invitation to you around if there's some things that you have desired to do that you've been waiting on, whether it's moving forward on a project or a cleaning up of something that is an energy leak for you. It can be that unpaid parking ticket, or it can be the blog you want to start or the podcast. And it's a moment of invitation to why wait? And to feel into whether in that waiting, you're creating suffering for yourself. Because that's what I was really finding, is that I was creating suffering, self-imposing it on myself. And in that, again, we've got all these energy leaks. And when we've got these energy leaks, then it's hard to pull it's hard to create the momentum of the energy in the direction in which we desire, or that we're meant to go by our divine blueprint, right? By our divine destiny for this lifetime in this being. So yeah, that all feels really amazing right now, and we'll see what comes back, and we'll see how this story continues to unfold. But I feel lighter. And again, why did I wait? Oh, all these old ways and old stories and the stuff that we tell ourselves, yeah, can really hold us back. And it's been a beautiful learning and medicine for me around all of that. So yeah, we're going to shift gears a little bit, because I want to talk about often what happens when signs and signals are coming to me is they come in groups, right? So it became clear to me that I was holding on to a lot of shame around releasing or having not released my New York law license. And as I was unwrapping and unfolding all of that, another area came up where I was also holding on to some shame. And again, it's like, I'm a no to shame. And yet we hold it in our bodies in ways that are a bit inexplicable to us. And I've been running into that. And so, the law license came up, and I'm going to talk about this other area where it came up. And that's, again, what prompted the Shame Game series. And then I got this really humbling experience around that shame around I'm broken. And so the beautiful thing is that I then get to choose whether to call in healing around that and in what ways to do that, or to put it to the side. It's always a choice. But it coming up into my awareness means I get to make a choice. Because often when it's not in our awareness, or my experience is when it's not in my awareness, it's something that I'm often not making a choice about. And then I am making a choice by not making a choice, right? So yeah, the other area, as I was stepping into this series, that was becoming really clear was some shame around my body. And it was some shame that was not just mine. And so it became apparent to me as I was navigating that my mom was sexually abused as a child. And she'd shared that with me many years ago, in my late teens. And I'm almost 43. And I had made this assumption that she had also shared that with my sister and my dad. And my mom has Alzheimer's now. And so I've gone back and forth about, is this my story to share? Can I share this? And I feel as if, and I've felt into it a lot. My feeling is, what feels true for me today is that she entrusted me with this. And so I don't want to hold her shame as mine. And so what came up for me was this, is that as we're navigating getting my mom the caregivers and the help that she needs with the Alzheimer's, Um, I mentioned, her sexual abuse that she was sexually abused as a child. Around that, a desire for her caregivers, the people that really help her, that they should be women. And I realized that my sister and my dad weren't aware. And at that point, um, I was angry at my mom. I was angry that she had given me this secret, what felt like a secret to hold, without letting me know that I was the only one holding it. And what's interesting is that I also held a lot of righteous anger towards my grandmother, towards my mother's mother, so my maternal grandmother, because when my mom as a child shared with her what happened, she shared with my grandmother what happened. My grandmother said, "That didn't happen. We're never talking about that again." And so the warrior in me never felt like my mom was angry enough about that. And so I held all this anger towards my grandmother. And so all of this is weaving and coming together. And I'm realizing, as I'm feeling into this, that what I'm a no to is holding on to the shame of this being a secret anymore. And that I can really feel how my mom did the best that she could. She shared this with me, and that's the best that she could do in that. Right. And I can actually feel from my grandmother that this idea of like, it just never happened, we're just not going to talk about it anymore, was really the best she could do in the 50s. Now, yeah, I have an easier time releasing the anger and feeling the empathy for my mom. I have a harder time forgiving my grandmother, even though I can feel that that's the best she could do in that moment. So, yeah, it's been an interesting bind around the forgiveness piece. And so the way then it played out for me around my body and my shame is, while this lifetime and in this being, I haven't had sexual abuse perpetrated on me, but I very much perpetrated it on myself. So what I mean by that is the way in which I had random sex partners and really controlled all the things around sex and my body. And that's the way it played out for me, is really me abusing my body and giving consent for abusing my body. Yeah, in the way of like, oh, what I'm looking for is connection. So this random hooking up in my late teens and 20s and early 30s was going to create that for me, but really it just created more shame. So it was me striving to fill the emptiness that lived within me. But that emptiness was so much more than mine. It belonged to women in general. It belonged to my ancestors. It belonged to the women who came before me in my direct bloodline. And so, yeah, stepping into really healing this. And so while all of this filling of the emptiness, the body shame, the shame around sex, it may not have all been mine. Like, it goes back again with ancestors and lineages, but it is mine to heal. And I'm up for it. It's mine to heal so that I don't give that, pass it on to my daughter in the same way. And so for me, some of the ways in which I'm called to start to heal this is ancestral medicine healing and really getting more in touch with my ancestors. And in really healing more of my mind-body connection around the trauma, so some somatic healing. And these are things that I'm stepping into now more fully. And yeah, and just to create more space in my body for healing. Because it is mine to heal. Even though it might not all have been mine, it is mine to heal. And what I'm a no to is continuing to hold on to the shame and the trauma. I'm willing to step into the healing. And again, this is not going to be linear. I checked the box. I did the ancestral medicine. I did the somatic healing. Check, check. I am not broken. I am healed and I am fine now. No, it's more about what feels true for me today is it's part of that spiral. And what I'm being called to right now is to create more space in my system, in my actual body through the somatic healing, more space to heal, right? And to integrate the mind-body connection more fully. And I'm being called to heal with my ancestors and create some wellness there and some reverence going forward. And that's how I'm being called in this moment. And down the road, it may be something different that calls me, but that's where I am right now. And so, yeah, we are going to continue to talk about how this is all unfolding. And it feels like so here's the other thing that it feels like. It feels like my lineage of my mother and my grandmother, their beings weren't in a place to do this healing. And I believe that my being is in a place to do this healing, but I believe that it's being highly supported by the collective consciousness that is really holding the healing for so many of us. And so I have this sense that I'm at a crossroads here, and that I can choose to do the healing, and that it'll be not only mine, but the healing of my lineage. And every time I believe that each one of us individually chooses our healing and the healing of our lineage, we create more healing in the collective for women in general. And so I'm a yes to all of that. It's messy, and sometimes it's dark. But in this moment, it also feels very worthwhile. It feels very worthwhile for myself, for my lineage, not only going back, but going forward to my daughter and beyond. And it feels important for all women and all people, for our world. And it's those things that each of us can do. It's the healing that each of us is embracing of ourselves. And as we do that, we're healing the wider whole. So that's our episode for this Shame Game series. I have some exciting things coming up that I would also like to share with you. I invite you to come do our Honor the Feminine community survey If you're listening to this live, that survey will be open between now and April 1st. And if I would just love to hear from you. I love to be connected with you. And I would love to hear some of your feedback on how to make the podcast better and what you're really desiring. And so you can access that survey at honorthefeminine.com. It will take you about 10 minutes to do it. I'd be very appreciative of your time and energy. And as a gift, for everyone who completes that survey and submits it by April 1st, you will be, you'll have your name put into a raffle, and I'm going to choose a winner of a one-to-one Ignite Your Spark session with me, and I'll be choosing that winner on Monday, April 2nd. So again, you can do that survey over at honorthefeminine.com. Another place to deepen in with me is on Facebook at Honor the Feminine Rhythm, which is our community space for the listeners for this podcast. And I love going live over there, and we choose oracle cards. And it's a space where we're stepping into sharing your voice and expressing your truth. And it's a beautiful space and a dynamic space around that, and creating the rhythm in our lives that we're desiring. And finally, I'm loving being on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, you can find me at Honor the Feminine over on Instagram. If you're, I've been loving Instagram stories. I've been a little bit quiet. What I've learned about myself, or what I've remembered about myself in the last few weeks, is that in moments where I need more energy to hold myself, it's harder for me to be out, for my extrovert to be out in the world. And so in those times where it's feeling harder to hold myself, it's really then about how can I hold myself? How can I hold my family? How can I hold my clients? But everything beyond that needs to fall away for moments. And that's been a really big discerning for me. So, yeah. Thank you for joining me today, and for joining me in this series and on this journey. And I look forward to being with you again next week. For now, have a magical day.